Hello, I'm Kads, and welcome to today's video. So once again, the portal is alight with the lovely yellow / purple / blue hue because surprisingly, for the first time ever, they're doing a triple 2x. Now, I'd mentioned that there was a possibility for Black Friday that they would have done a triple 2x, but historically that has been a different shard type for each of the different days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But this iteration is actually all three of the major shard types, that being Ancient, Void, and Sacred, all having their 2x rates at the exact same time throughout the entirety of the weekend. So basically, it's dealer's choice for however you'd like to approach this summoning weekend. So in my case, we are never pulling without a purpose, of course, and our goal is getting the legendary tome from the Champion Chase tournament, which we can take a look at here. Of course, we also want to get the fragments for the fusion. Let me not understate that. But as an added bonus, we can go all the way out to 3600 or 3650 in order to get the legendary tome out there. The amount of points required to get the fragments is exactly where I predicted it at 3,000 points, but you do have the lower node here of 1,550, which would be of consideration if your plan was to max out the Summon Rush and then minimize the Champion Chase. But considering the craziness of this particular event, I think a lot more people are positioned to max out the Champion Chase. Now, a couple of things to consider when it comes to Champion Chase points are that one, Skeletor will be coming into the game in the next couple of days, at least at the time of this recording. He will be, for me, tomorrow. So Saturday, the reset on Saturday. So that's a guaranteed 500 points. So even though my overall goal is to get to 3650, effectively all I have to do is get to 3100, and then we're guaranteed to get there tomorrow after reset by getting Skeletor, which is a free 500 points for a legendary on my account. And then of course there's also the free summon that I managed to get from the Champion Trading Tournament, as I talked about in my fusion plan. So we do have this opportunity to get at the very least 250 points. I think there is a Void Epic in the mix. Whoops. Yeah, Umbrel's in the mix. So technically you could also get 350 points, or you can get a legendary. So let's go ahead, kick things off with an absolute banger and get our free epic champion, and it is Soul Drinker. So not much exciting there, to be expected. It's a 94% chance to get an epic, so getting a legendary would have absolutely been crazy. And honestly, even though Volcanos really does seem like a super awesome champion, just by happenstance, I don't actually happen to have that many meta demon spawn champions. So even if I did happen to get him, I don't have a Duchess, I don't have a Helicath, a Mortu, Prince Kymar, any of those like super arena focused type champions I don't really have, and so I really wouldn't be able to do much with him in terms of him being a faction unity champion. Carnage will come into the mix a little bit later, or I guess eventually, and I don't have Commonus either, so I'm just not in a great position to make use of his faction unity qualities, but nonetheless he would have been a cool champion just to have, just in case I happen to get some legendaries or some of those legendaries in the future. Popping over into the portal, we can take a look at the overall shard count on the account. 805 on the Ancients, 255 on the Voids, 46 on the Primals, and 66 on the Sacreds. And if you guys will indulge me for a bit, I'll pop up my Mercy tracker on the screen so I can explain exactly which shard type I elected to go for, despite this being a triple 2x, meaning you could basically do any of the three Ancients, Voids, or Sacreds. So generally speaking, you could say that my overall shard pulling strategy is to maximize the amount of rewards or potential I could get while minimizing the amount of shards I have to pull to get it, and I'm more willing to part with lesser shards. So in this case, that would be Ancient shards that would be the most enticing to pull, just because they are the most plentiful and they're the easiest to kind of burn through, and it's not really that much of a strain. So when it comes to the Sacreds, that is an option for me, but I'm in that middle ground where like I'm not quite in Mercy and I'm pretty far away from it. And obviously we just had a Sacred Pogo like a week or two ago, so we're probably not going to have one of those for a couple of months or so. So it's not really that I necessarily have to play around Mercy in the short term, but obviously, you know, if I can get away with not having to burn Sacreds, then I'm not going to use them, right? Plus I will be using some probably for the Summon Rush next weekend for the purpose of the fusion. The second option, of course, would have been Void Shards, but in this case, I'm getting close to that range where I'm not near enough to Mercy, because it would be like up to 80 Voids potentially to guarantee hitting a Void Legendary. That's a little bit steep. So I'm in that sweet spot where essentially if we get one more session of bad luck, so the next 2x Voids, whenever that happens to be, I pull in a 30 to 40 Voids, we don't happen to get a Legendary from the 2x, then we're in a lot closer to Mercy, so it's somewhere around like 30 away, 20 away, that way that we're within 40 to 50 Voids of guaranteeing a Void Legendary. Then it becomes a lot more enticing to go for some sort of progressive chance events for one of my most wanted Void Legendaries, and so I don't really want to ruin that right now. I think there's going to be some time before my desired champions are featured in progressive chance, so I want to hold off on that one, which leaves us with Ancient Shards, which I already mentioned are the cheapest and probably the weakest shard type in the entire game, aside from Mystery Shards, of course. We're fresh off of Mercy, so this is most certainly the best time to pull for a 2x. If nothing happens, then we have, a higher chance to get epics, or if we get lucky, then we happen to get a legendary. So it's kind of a win-win, and I get to preserve more of my strategic shards, shall we say. In terms of who we're looking for, if we do happen to get a legendary from the session, Valkyrie is still number 1, a Poison Exploder, a true Poison Exploder, no offense to Stock the Broken here, but that would be number 2, and then Molly Tankard would be number 3. And then, of course, because there's also boosted rates on the epics, any duplicate epics for empowerment will be useful as well. So without further ado, let's get into the pulls. We've got a decent amount of space, we've got a decent amount of cash, and hopefully we can get some pretty decent luck. I think this time around, we deserve a decent amount of luck. Let's see what happens here. We're also going to be tracking our progress in the Champion Chase. The epic from the Prism shard started us off with 250, and a set of all blues, which is horrendously unfortunate, only gives us 100 points, so now we're at 350. But again, the goal here is 3,100 points, just because, again, we're guaranteed to get Skeletor in a day and a half or so, so he is going to give us some credit there. One epic, 340 points, brings us to around 700. Ripper is a terrible epic champion. I honestly couldn't tell you what he does, which tells you everything you need to know about him as a champion. We have one of the Candlehead champions, 4 epics? Okay, 5 epics, nice. You love to see that. Unfortunately, none of them are really that good. Catacomb Counselor is probably useful now more than ever before in the Cursed City because he's one of the few epic ally attack champions. And I think, some form of Fire Knight basically requires him. Lady Arash, I've heard she hits relatively hard, but I have not yet built her. But again, Cursed City style champion. Bone Keeper, similar thing. She has relatively high multipliers from what I've heard, but I haven't used her personally, so I can't necessarily confirm that. And then Rain Beast is a decent support-ish healer, but he's not as strong as he used to be. The good thing is that was absolutely amazing in terms of Champion Chase points. So we're sitting pretty somewhere around 2,000 with only 20 shards in, which is pretty impressive. So we'll probably do a solid all blues to balance it out. Let's see it. Yep, that is totally fair. Still around 2,000 points, bunch of rares to be expected. You got to have some good luck with the bad luck. And now at least we're back to epics. Crimson Helm. Believe it or not, this is the first copy of her that I've ever gotten on my account. She's one of the handful of epics that I had yet to get. I don't have any use for her, so don't get it twisted. But nonetheless, she is new, and I finally have her on my account. 2,300 in the Champion Chase, so 800-ish points to go. I think basically we need 3 epics more or less along the way. Hopefully we can get all 3 in one singular 10 pop instead of a bunch of rares. Unfortunate, but it is par for the course. I guess we're kind of alternating. We get one session or one 10 pull with epics and then one without. So if we get all 3 epics here, I think we're done. 4, it definitely secures it. 5 even, man. 5 epics, but once again, nothing really amazing. There's not even much to talk about aside from like wearing on the Silken being a pretty solid support if you need a reviver for Faction Wars. But other than that, there's really not much to mention there. So unfortunate. I don't really think we got any epics that are good or suitable for empowerment, which is a bummer. We hop over to the index. I believe we can confirm that Crimson Helm is the new red dot. So yep, I think now I have like 2 epics in the game that I still don't have. But we're whittling them down slowly but surely, even though it's been nearly 4 years of play, which is kind of crazy. But you never know. So there's always a bane on someone's account of someone that you just cannot get. So getting a bunch of epics there on the last 10 pop. I only needed 3 and we ended up getting 5, and so that definitely shot us over the limit here in terms of getting the Legendary Tome already. So getting Skeletor now doesn't really matter, but that's just how luck RNG can go sometimes. But there you go, maxed out the Champion Chase in terms of how far I'm willing to go. Obviously, in my position, right, I do have tons and tons of ancient shards, so I could go further. I could pursue like the Mythical Tome or whatever, but I'm just not in the mood to drop like 200 ancients or something to pull that off. It just doesn't feel worth it, and obviously that is most certainly not sustainable long term. So that is why we're not doing that, even though it seems like that was something trivial that I could do. All right, so there you have it. That is going to do it for our shard pulling session, and unfortunately the only highlight is kind of filling out the Pokedex a little bit more by finally getting Crimson Helm. We didn't really get any useful epics on my account, or even useful like duplicate epics, and we also did not get a legendary. But again, that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. You're not always going to get lucky every single session. Let me know in the comment section down below which shard type or types you're going to be pulling for this weekend, and of course let me know if you got anything good from your summons. As always, if you did find this video helpful, then be sure to hit that like button down below. It really does help out the channel, and feel free to hit that subscribe button as well if you are enjoying the content on the channel. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.